In this video, I'm going to be finding out about a cryptocurrency project that deals with what's missing when it comes to global mass adoption.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
The Keystone wallet is the wallet that you want to be using to keep your crypto safe. Whether you are a Bitcoin maxi or an altcoin lover, it is perfect for you. Easy to use, 3 secure elements, and integrates easily with MetaMask, Kepler, and dozens of other extension wallets. Get one now to keep your crypto safe and secure. Go to bit.ly/CryptoRichKeystone. Hi, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. I'm joined by Eric Calder. Eric Calder is involved with Foundation, and we're going to be finding out about Val. I featured this before. Now, before I introduce him, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're missing out. There's stuff I post on ODYSEE and also on 3Speak and on Rumble that doesn't make it to YouTube. So come and support my work on ODYSEE. And it's bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey or bit.ly/CryptoRichRumble or bit.ly/CryptoRich3Speak. Hey, Eric, thank you so much. Long time since we spoke.
It's been a minute, hasn't it?
That's right. Before we did the recording, we had a long chat. All right, we'll talk about what we talked about then, right? It was quite something else.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
interesting stuff.
You're involved with VOW Currency, or VOW. The ticker symbol is VOW, and the website is VOW.Foundation. I have all the links in the description below. Do you want to say what it is you do, and then talk about VOW? And so this is going to be an introduction to that project.
Yeah, sure. So I think my role hasn't been really all that clear. I'm like an evangelist, I guess, and at some point I was sort of fashioned to be the VOW global ambassador, but now I'm really a VOW maximalist. So this is, I think, the term that we've adopted in the community is we're VOW maximalists.
Right.
And I think for people who don't know what that means, it means that from the world of currencies and digital assets that exist, having that literally thousands, we hold VOW to be the best solution for let's just say for a world currency.
Yeah. Yes.
Which I think a world currency is very much needed, and I think that the people who run the existing system want one, but the people who are opposed to the people who run the existing system also want one for opposite reasons. So I think all roads lead to Rome in that sense.
Yep. And then I think many cryptocurrencies that want to operate as a currency versus as a like a utility platform or a layer 1 protocol or something. Those that want to be used in place of cash, they're all competing with Bitcoin. There's BSV saying we're the original Bitcoin, and Bcash saying no, we're the original Bitcoin, and this one saying no, you want to use us, we're much faster and better, and then no, this one saying, and VOW falls in that category, right? So what is it about VOW that makes it so special and distinct?
Yeah, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't.
Okay.
So let me talk about the word currency for a minute. It comes from the French word courir, which means to run. So a currency runs, which means to say it runs through people's fingers from one hand to the next, right? It's not a currency if it isn't running. Meaning to say that if it isn't a mechanism for settling transactions.
Yeah.
If it isn't that, then it's really just an asset. And I think that a thing can be an asset and have the potential to become a currency. Or it could also be a currency. So currencies are assets, right? They just happen to be running. An asset that is stationary, like your house, isn't running, therefore it isn't a currency.
Yep.
Bitcoin is an asset for sure. And I think that people recognize it as a store of value kind of asset, right? It isn't really a currency because no one accepts it. And there's very good reasons why Bitcoin cannot be a currency, at least not until its price stabilizes. And the reason is that nobody wants to spend Bitcoin. I mean, some guy spent 10,000 Bitcoin on a pizza. We had pizza day not too long ago, and oh my God, this was a horrendous experience, right? You should have just held on to the Bitcoin, and you should have been $200 million ahead.
Yeah.
So so Bitcoin is not a good candidate for that, and for that reason, we in the VAO ecosystem have a dual token approach. So we have VAO, which is like Bitcoin, it's limited in supply, and therefore makes a good store of value. But we also have a family of tethered tokens, and I say tethered loosely. I mean, we have V dollars and V pounds and V euro and V rands and etc. And so these currencies allow the user, these two currencies allow the user to make a decision between having essentially a savings account and a checking account, where you keep the bulk of your value in the savings account in VAO, and whenever you need to spend, you take some of the VAO, you turn it into V dollars, and then you spend it, right? And that's your checking account. For the people who still remember what check or savings accounts were.
Yeah. Yes.
So what I was going to say is VAO is not it's not amongst all of the candidates for, we want to be a better currency because we're faster, or VAO is not actually a great breakthrough in technology. It's a great breakthrough in money, in finance. So in the way that Bitcoin was a great breakthrough, both in technology and finance, because they, through the resolution of the Byzantine general's problem and the idea of reaching consensus and tying the proof of work to that consensus, and all of the cryptography and all of the solutions that Bitcoin sort of pulled together, what it did was it allowed us for the first time ever to have a contentious internet item, right? By contentious, I mean there's Lawrence, the professor Lawrence Lessig talks about this. If I have a cup of tea, I can give it to you, and then you can have it, or I can have it, but we both can't have it, right? It's contentious. All physical things in the world are contentious. But and so gold is contentious, right? The reason why gold was valuable was because it was contentious and because it was limited in supply. But on the internet, things are non-contentious by default. So if I send you a photograph, you have a photograph, but I also have a photograph, right? Yep. And it's really, really hard to build this a system where I can share with you that photograph without also keeping a copy.
Yeah.
In fact, non-contentious things existed before the internet. For example, if I have an idea in my head and I share it with you, we both have the same idea, right? So that's non-contentious. If I'm smoking a cigarette, I can share the fire with you to light your cigarette. We both have the fire now. So that's non-contentious. But you can't build a store of value mechanism on top of a non-contentious asset.
Yeah.
Right.
So just because how I understand that, I didn't come across the term contentious the way you're saying it, is if I send you a PDF, I've got a copy of the PDF, you've got a copy of the PDF, you can make lots of copies, I can make lots of copies, right? You can't do that with digital.
Exactly.
Can't do that with
exactly. And that was Nakamoto's great achievement, was he managed to create a thing that was non-reproducible on the internet. It was contentious. The first thing that was ever created on the internet that was contentious, and therefore it became money. So from a monetary perspective, Bitcoin's great breakthrough is it gives us back real money.
Yes.
Because we had real money, which is gold. And then we lost it because we had little pieces of paper, and those became numbers in a computer, and that was an internet non-contentious kind of thing. Okay, managed by central banks, etc. But you can see where that goes. And counterfeiting. Counterfeiting was a huge, continues to be euro dollars, all of these kinds of other dollar creation mechanisms, right? Well, you can't do that with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin gives us back real money. The problem is that as real money, when compared with the sliding dollar, real money appreciates, and because this asset is appreciating in value, nobody wants to spend it, so it's not a good currency, right? So VAO is I refer to it as Bitcoin 2.0 for this reason. As much as Bitcoin was a breakthrough in financing, giving us back real money, VAO goes an extra distance in that it changes the nature of money. And I'll explain it in this way. People, there's trade, right? As a function of culture, people make stuff and they trade it with each other. This is where the value of civilization lies, is the fact that you know how to make sandals and I know how to grow potatoes. And so you can make me sandals and I make you potatoes. Great.
Yeah.
But there's a problem. You know, I come to you with my potatoes and I want a pair of sandals, and you go, well, that'll cost you 10 potatoes. And I go, no, I'm only willing to give you 5. Right. And you go, well, no, I'm not surrendering my sandals for that. And so no transaction happens. Right. So this is called a liquidity problem. There's no liquidity in that market, because the bid and the ask, the price offered for something and the price demanded for something are too far apart, and they need to meet in order for the transaction to happen. So that distance between the two things is called the spread, and the wider the spread, the less liquidity we say in the market, right? So very liquid markets, liquidity is the lifeblood of markets. And why is Bitcoin so interesting today? Because it has incredible amounts of liquidity, right? You can buy it or sell it all day and you don't touch the price, right?
Yep.
So, but that doesn't, so here's what VOW is. VOW can be thought of as permanent negative money. And I'll explain what that means. We have, when the bid doesn't meet the ask and there's no transactions, let's say the ask is usually on the part of retailers. The retailers have a store full of shoes and they're asking for this much and no one's showing up, right? So what do? They discount. And how do they let people know that they're discounting? They go to a newspaper and they print a little piece of paper called a coupon, and it says this coupon entitles you to a 10% discount. So your $100 shoes become $90. And you read the paper every day and you pick it up and you go, oh, $100 I wouldn't pay, but 90 I will pay. So you cut it out, you show up, and you give this to the retailer along with your $90, and you get your shoes and everyone's happy. Transaction happened, right? So the coupon represents liquidity. It represents the difference between the bid and the ask, but in reality, what actually happened is that the ask just lowered to meet the bid, because if it didn't, then there was no transaction, right? And the coupon is that mechanism. So the coupons are negative money. They entitle you to a reduction in price from the standard price. If you have the coupon, the next guy who didn't have a coupon, he gets to pay full price, right?
Right.
But the issue with the coupons is that they're ephemeral. Once you surrender it to the merchant, he tears it up, and that's the end of that, right? So V dollars are different in that sense. They act like a coupon, so they act like negative money in that when I go to a retailer, I don't pay him with V dollars. I give him the V dollars, but the V dollars are actually an entitlement where he is going to reduce his price to me by whatever number of V dollars I give him, right? So if the price is $100 and I give him 10 V dollars, then he charges me $90 on my credit card.
Right.
This distinction is important because it means that V dollars are not money. They're not, therefore, a currency. They're not regulated in the United States, let's say, by FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They're not regulated by Treasury. They are also not commodities, and they're not securities. We have legal opinions on that. So what they are is they're actually like a loyalty rewards program, right? Which is actually regulated by the FTC in the United States, the Federal Trade Commission, which deals with consumers and things like that, right? But unlike a coupon, V dollars don't get torn up and thrown in the bin when they're received by the retailer. They can be reused by that retailer, for example, by handing them to a customer as a discount. So let's say you come in, you pay $100, and the retailer says, hey, we're running a promotion and we're going to give you $10 as a discount. And you go, wow, so that just effectively cost me $90. I'm very happy. I'm happy to come to shop at this store because I get these discounts, right? And so the V dollar, the coupon survived, right? It now becomes permanent negative money. It's negative to the next guy that receives it, who can then get an entitlement to a price reduction somewhere else, right? So you go and buy these pairs of shoes and you get your $10 and you walk into a coffee store and maybe you spend 5 of them for a cup of coffee, right? So this is really a new way to think about money and transaction settlement, and it has huge, vast implications. in some ways, so we refer to it internally and I think publicly as the decentralization of monetary issuance, right? So Bitcoin decentralized the consensus required to establish a single source of truth, right? How do I know that I have 2 Bitcoin in my wallet? Well, the answer is there's a whole bunch of miners out there that agreed to that, and it's really hard for anyone to naysay that fact.
Yep.
Right. So Bitcoin is the decentralization of truth, but it doesn't decentralize many other aspects of the things that we do. Right. We currently live in a world where the issuance of currency is centralized. As a matter of fact, I'll quote. I like to quote Mayor Amschel Rothschild, who was the grandfather of the Rothschild family back in Frankfurt in the early 1800s, I think. And he once said something, I'm paraphrasing, but he once said, give me the power to print the currency of a nation, and I care not who sits on the throne.
Yep.
Because if you have the power to, and the reason is because he properly understood two very important levers of power, right? The crown, the government, has an exclusive right to one of those levers, a monopoly on violence. Yes. They have armies and they have police and they have guns, right? And they come to your house and they point the guns at you and they take you off in handcuffs, and they can do that because they have a monopoly on violence. And violence is a way in which you can control the population because, if you hang a man by the neck in a public square, everybody goes, oh my goodness, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm not doing whatever it was that he did. And so that has just wide ripples throughout society. It's a wonderful way to control and manage the population through fear, through the threat of violence. But violence is actually a small lever because if you string up 200 or 2,000 guys in the square, what happens is everybody goes, holy shit, they're stringing everybody up by the neck, and I'm next. And so I'm going to go find my rifle, and now we have a Marie Antoinette situation, right, where the leaders lose their heads. So governments cannot use violence too much. They have to be very careful with it, or else it boomerangs back on them. The second level of power that they have is money. And money is a wonderful thing because it's invisible. Nobody understands it. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody understands the mechanisms of it. And through money, you can control a population by impoverishing them.
Yep.
You can steal the fruits of their labor so that they're constantly living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have time to get involved in governance and things that actually matter, right? So Rothschild was exactly on point. The ability to issue money is the greater of the powers, right? Who cares about the crown and his little toy soldiers when you have the ability to print money? And so what VOW does is it decentralizes the issuance of currency, right? We now have a mechanism whereby the V dollars can be minted not by a central bank or by a central institution, but by every merchant who joins the network. You want to sell products to our customer base or to the public at large, right? And you want to outcompete the guy across the street, you use VOW mechanisms, right? And how do you do it? You do it by issuing V dollars, by minting V dollars out of thin air, which you then give your customers as discounts. And your customers then go and spend them at other merchants. And now you have a currency. You have a thing that's circulating and running across merchants and across customers, et cetera, right? And when you look at it, you say, one of the big issues with Bitcoin and really all of the cryptocurrencies out there, except for USDC and the stablecoins, is the cognitive load of saying, well, how much Bitcoin will a loaf of bread cost me, right? I have no idea. I know it costs, $5, but how much is that in Bitcoin, right? And that the answer fluctuates from minute to minute. It's not a unit of account. We don't think of it in those terms, right? We can't think of assets in terms of Bitcoin. And so now all of a sudden, you look at V dollars and you say, well, what is a V dollar worth? Intuitively, you already know the answer. It's worth $1. And it doesn't expire like a loyalty point does, right? And it doesn't have to be managed in some obscure website. And it's not acceptable only at the issuer. like Delta points. I fly on Delta, they give me Delta points. I can only use them with Delta, right? No, V dollars can be used anywhere, like a dollar.
Mhm.
And so all of a sudden, you have a new vehicle, which, what is that expression? If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck, right? That's people look at the V dollar and they go, well, it has all the characteristics of a dollar. It's just had a V in the front of it. And what does that mean? It means that I hold it in my VOW wallet, or I hold it in my, MetaMask wallet, or whatever it is, right? It's a crypto thing.
Where does the
So,
retailer get?
sorry?
Where does the retailer get any value? Because all they've done is discounted their goods by 10%, using the examples you've talked about.
Yes. So the real magic. So from a consumer perspective, it's a very straightforward deal,
Yeah.
right? You put $100 on your credit card, you get a pair of shoes, and you get these 10 V dollars, and then you go blow the 10 V dollars somewhere, and that's all wonderful.
Yeah.
The real magic here is on the retailer side, because imagine. So I'm going to just play out the scenario how this would work, right? Imagine that you say you come into the store with a coupon, and the shoes are $100. So you give $100 to the retailer and you give him the coupon. And the retailer says, oh, I see you have a coupon. Okay, let me tear that up and let me take $10 and give them back to you. Right.
Mhm.
So now I actually only received $9. I gave you $10 back in discount. So what that means is that you just lost profitability. It's a loss of profitability. If you have let's say a $15 margin on it, now you're only making $5 on the shoes, right? Instead of 15. And that, of course, hurts the bottom lines. And inflation actually has a great, effect on retailers, because the cost of goods, cost of labor is going up, and so they have to push the prices up. And as they push the prices up, the market disappears, because now things are too expensive. People buy less of it, or they don't show up at all. And now you're dying as a retailer, right? So inflation has a really deleterious effect on
Yes.
retailers.
Absolutely.
So now let me walk you through this alternative scenario. You walk in the store, you give the retailer $100 and you give him the coupon, and that coupon is 10 V dollars, right? And he charges you the $100 and he gives you the product and he receives he charges you $90 and he receives the 10 V dollars, and so he gives you the product. So that's one way in which it can happen, is if you're redeeming those V dollars. But the other way it can happen is he charges you $100 on the credit card, and then he gives you 10 V dollars, right? So now he's not giving you $10; he's giving you 10 V dollars.
Right.
Whereas the $10 have a $10 value. What value, or let's just talk about it in terms of cost. The cost to the retailer of $10 is $10. The cost to the retailer of 10 V dollars is what? And the answer is it costs them zilch.
Yep.
They just gave you 10 tokens, which they minted out of thin air at no cost, that you take to be worth $10, and which you can prove to yourself they're worth $10, because anybody else will accept them as though they were $10. But from a manufacturing cost, there was nothing. And so on your balance sheet, you show $100 worth of income, which means that we provided the liquidity to make the bid meet the ask. We closed that spread using this token. And that means that we can therefore discount any cash stream on the planet. Any transaction anywhere for any product, we can get in the middle and make the buyer meet the seller.
Okay.
Right? By essentially inflating the supply of V dollars. Now, we then look like a real dollar, because that's what they're doing with the real dollars, right? They're inflating the supply. And so we're inflating the supply along with them. Actually, they're inflating them far faster than we are.
Mhm.
They're printing $1 trillion every 90 days, is it now?
Crazy.
So we're not printing nearly as much. So by rights, the V dollars should actually be trading at a huge premium to the dollar. But that's a different discussion. The point is that we now have this parallel monetary supply that looks and feels like dollars. And in fact, let's just say they could be directly competitive to Eurodollars. It's another Eurodollar mechanism that we make available to the retailers.
Okay.
And so the retailer now, as inflation increases, so if you think about what the Fed's doing right now, they're tightening interest rates, right? Because there's inflation. As inflation increases, V dollars actually provide another mechanism, a much more effective mechanism to combat inflation, because the higher the cost of the product, the more deeply that the merchant can discount, thus creating price stability and preserving his audience. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then what's the relationship between V dollars and VOW?
Right. So V dollars, in a way, are a form of VOW. You mint V dollars by staking VOW. So let's just say, and kind of the way that we're doing it right now, let's just say a company has a standard marketing budget of $1 million for the year. So what they do is they buy $200,000 of VOW. So you need 20% of that amount, and they stake it. And when they stake the $200,000 of VOW, the contract prints 1 million V dollars for them. Now, it doesn't hand them to the retailer directly, and there's good reasons for that. What it does is it puts them into a bucket, and as consumers buy stuff from the retailer, the smart contract automatically sends them whatever percentage discount is that the retailer wants to give, right? So that happens through a proof of transaction. We have built mechanisms whereby we can pick up transactions from the backbones of Visa and MasterCard and American Express and Maestro and all of these kinds of networks. So we're deeply integrated into the existing financial system. When you stick out your credit card and it gets charged, we pick up that transaction and go, who's Rich? Oh, yeah, Rich is one of us. And we know his wallet address, and he just shopped at TJ Maxx, bought $100 worth of something and gets 10% off. So we'll send him 10 V dollars directly, right? So we never give the V dollars to the retailer directly. We give them to the consumer. And so now the VOW is basically locked away, right? The retailer can't have access to it. This makes our market participants, the purchasers of VOW, different from the purchasers of assets in any other market. And I'm going to say crypto markets, but also traditional markets. Different in one respect. They are diamond hands. When people buy Bitcoin, they say, well, gosh, it's at all-time highs. I don't think I want to buy. I think I'm going to wait until it falls a little, right? And then pick it up. And when it's falling, people go, oh my God, it's losing value. I think I should sell it and maybe pick it up when it stops falling. So the price of the asset is really, really important.
Mhm.
And they don't tend to hold it very long because they're constantly, they take profits. Even if you don't trade it, if you're just like a long-term investor, there's still the idea that there's an exit of that asset at some point, right? But our retailers don't think of VOW in that way. They are commercial buyers of it. So if you think about a jewelry maker, he buys gold. He doesn't buy gold and say, "Oh, I'm gonna hold on to this." No, he's gonna use it to make his stuff and then sell his stuff, right? And it just becomes a cost of doing business. So our retailers have a marketing budget. They blow $1 million a year on advertising and other kinds of things. That money's just gone. They take that and they put it into VOW, 200,000 of that into VOW, let's say, and they stake it. And as far as they're concerned, that stuff is gone. It was an expense. They wrote it off, whatever. But it's actually an asset they own, and it's locked away, right? So it means that amount of VOW disappears from the market. And the more VOW that disappears from the market, the higher the price, because it becomes more and more scarce. And then people are buying it. And in fact, the retailers are competing with each other to buy the VOW, and they're paying higher and higher prices. But here's the second thing that's different about our players. They don't care what the price is. They don't care if for $200,000 they get 200,000 token VOW tokens, or if they get 1,000 or 200. They don't care how many VOW tokens they buy, because whatever they buy, it's worth $200,000, and they're just going to stake it anyway, and they're going to get 1 million V dollars when they stake it. So they're not only are they diamond hands, they're price insensitive, they're price blind. They could care less. They're not going to sell it. They're not buying it for the capital gains. But here's where the magic is. There is capital gains. It goes up in value, and it's sitting on their balance sheet. And all of a sudden, they're saying, well, the CMO, the chief marketing officer, is busy buying Vow because he's doing these amazing campaigns when he's just basically giving up free money away, right? And he's got a 5x on there. So he's tickled pink. And the CFO, the financial officer, every once in a while, every quarter, looks at his balance sheet and he notices, wait, what the hell is this thing here that we have called Vow? Because last quarter it was worth this much, and this quarter it's worth this much, right? Oh, well, it's this digital asset thing. Yeah, but it's growing in value a lot. So we should probably think about putting some of our treasury into it, right? As a matter of fact, if we put our treasury into it, all that does is it gives us greater discounting power. So we become even bigger, right? So now the marketing department is no longer a loss leader. They're not just a they're not a cost basis. They're actually a way to grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
So it completely. So the net effect of this is if you sell shoes, if you sell a pair of shoes for $100, and the guy across the street has the same shoes, you can outcompete him any day, right? Because you can discount even below cost. And the other guy is his head spinning, going, wait, what's going on? How are these people able to sell things so inexpensively? I can't do it. I know my costs. I'd go out of business, right? And so that's what happens. He goes out of business. Unless, of course, we go and tap on his window and go, you know how those guys are doing it? They have Vow, and you can join or die. Whichever.
Right.
So we're really predatory in that sense, right? This system, it allows merchants to compete. Let's just call it unfairly. It allows merchants to compete on the basis of a new economic model.
Okay.
That is simply superior to the economic model that we have at present.
Okay. So a couple of questions, and then we should finish up. And I know we're going to do another video about liquidity pools and how people can earn income off that, right? But one is the Vow launched a couple of years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago.
Vow has launched in stages. So there are